Hey, it's good to be back. So I've been gone for a while, but I have a perfectly reasonable explanation. Spending nearly 400 hours in Baldur's Gate 3 listening to Neil Newbon's lovely voice. Anyway, I finally emerged from my cave and I'm back with a fun little thought experiment. Have you ever been playing a post-apocalyptic game and thought, wow, I'd be really fucked if I lived here? Well, today we're ranking the video game apocalypses where survival would be the absolute worst. So grab your emergency rations, tape up those windows, and let's dive into the video game wastelands where your chances of survival would be somewhere between definitely doomed and dead before the tutorial even ends. First up, we've got Dying Light. Imagine you've survived the initial zombie outbreak in Haran. Congratulations! Your reward? Daily exercise! The Dying Light apocalypse gives us a 1-2 punch of absolute horror. During the day, you've got your garden variety infected running around trying to eat your face, but then the sun sets and the real party begins when the volatiles come out to play. These things make regular zombies look like cuddly puppies. They're fast, they're strong, and they've got a keen sense for finding survivors who forgot to check their watch before a supply run. What makes Dying Light especially brutal is the slow descent into chaos, the quarantine, the military abandonment, and the dwindling supplies. It's a drawn-out nightmare where hope constantly appears to just get its throat ripped out in front of you. Plus, the parkour movement system is amazing. When you're behind a controller. In real life, most of us would probably miss that first jump between buildings and become a sidewalk pizza before we even encountered a zombie. So survival odds for this one, about as good as my chances of making it through a horde without sweating profusely. Welcome to the Umbrella Corporation, where the yearly performance review includes asking if you've mutated into a tentacle monster yet. What makes this universe particularly nasty is the sheer variety of ways you can die horribly. Regular zombies? Well, that's just the starter menu. The main course includes lickers, hunters, tyrants, and whatever the hell William Birkin turned into. And just when you think you've seen it all, some new bioweapon crashes the party. Resident Evil presents a world where the apocalypse keeps on one-upping itself. Oh, you survived the T-virus? Cool. Here's the G-virus. The worst part is, unlike some other apocalypses where the whole world goes down at once, Resident Evil drags it out with contained outbreaks that keep happening over and over. Raccoon City, Spain, Africa, nowhere is safe for long, and you'd spend your life watching the news wondering if your city is next. Survival odds? Well, that depends entirely on whether you're the main character or some random pedestrian in Raccoon City. Spoiler, you're the pedestrian. And something tells me that a Tesco shopping run would be a lot less fun with Mr. X following you down aisle 3. Left 4 Dead's apocalypse is like a deadly team building exercise. Work together or die alone. That would be the motivational poster. The virus in this game doesn't just create your average shambling zombies, it creates specialised killing machines that seem specifically designed to break up survivor groups. Got separated from your friends? Here comes a smoker to drag you further away. Thought you'd take a breather? The witch has other plans for your moment of peace. What makes this apocalypse particularly nightmarish is how quickly it all went down. Society collapsed in 2 weeks. 2 weeks! I've had cheese in my refrigerator longer than civilization lasted in this universe. The rapid breakdown means there's almost no infrastructure left, no organised military response, no safe zones, just a desperate band of survivors trying to reach evac points. And let's be honest, we've all played enough online co-op to learn that depending on other people for survival is a dicey proposition at best. In real life, your survival team wouldn't be the competent characters in game, it would be that one friend who keeps friendly firing because it's funny. So survival odds, about as good as finding a working vending machine that still has snacks 3 months after society collapses. Frostpunk, freeze or be morally frozen. Most apocalypses are content to just kill you. Frostpunk says, no. First we'll make you question every moral principle you've ever held, and then we'll freeze you to death. In the frigid wasteland of Frostpunk, the world has entered a volcanic winter, dropping temperatures to levels that would make Antarctic explorers say no thanks. You're not just fighting zombies or raiders, you're fighting the most unforgiving enemy of them all.
Thermodynamics!
What sets Frostpunk apart is how it forces desperate moral choices. After all, child labour laws are a luxury of the pre-apocalypse past. Deciding who gets amputations after frostbite? Just another Tuesday morning. The game's tagline might as well be, come for the hypothermia, stay for the soul-crushing ethical dilemmas. And the cold never stops. This is your life now, huddled around a massive steam generator that could fail at any moment. Your entire existence revolves around coal, steel, and trying not to think about how much easier death would be than another day of this frozen hell. In most apocalypses, the immediate threats are obvious. In Frostpunk, you might survive the cold only to realise you've become a monster in the process. As the loading screen reminds you, the city must survive. So survival odds, technically possible, but is it worth it when your toes fall off and you're working 18-hour shifts in the coal mines? The Last of Us. Fungi have no chill. Have you ever been hiking and thought, oh, that mushroom looks pretty neat? In the Last of Us universe, that mushroom thinks you look neat. As a host body. The cordyceps brain infection takes the zombie apocalypse and adds a disturbing biological angle. These aren't reanimated corpses, they're people whose brains have been hijacked by a fungus that knows exactly what it's doing. The stages of infection are a horror show, from the recently infected runners to the blind echolocating clickers, all the way to the fungal roadblocks called bloaters. What makes The Last of Us particularly devastating is that it shows us a world 20 plus years after the apocalypse, and things haven't got better. They've settled into a new, terrible normal. Military dictatorships, cannibal groups, and roving bandits have replaced civilization. Resources are perpetually scarce, and trust is an unaffordable luxury. And unlike some zombie scenarios where the infected eventually decay, cordyceps hosts can keep functioning for decades. Those click-clacking nightmares aren't going anywhere. The infection has effectively claimed the natural world, buildings, streets, entire cities overtaken by the fungal growth. Mother Nature didn't reclaim the earth. Peacefully, she sent in the mushroom marines. The cherry on top in part 2 is that we learn the cordyceps can evolve, creating a new type of infected. So even if you figured out how to deal with the clickers, surprise! Here's a shambler to dissolve your face with acid spores. Innovation isn't dead in the apocalypse, it just wants you dead instead. So survival odds, better hope you're immune or extremely good at holding your breath around spores, otherwise you're just another future wall decoration. SOMA, also known as the Existential Crisis Simulator. Most apocalypses just kill your body, but SOMA says, hold my beer, and proceeds to destroy your entire concept of self. The surface world has been obliterated by a comet, forcing humanity's last remnants deep underwater. That's just the appetizer for SOMA's existential horror buffet. The main course is a complete disconnection between consciousness and physical form, raising the question, if your mind is copied into a machine, which one is really you? SOMA's apocalypse is uniquely terrifying because survival itself becomes meaningless. The WOW, an AI designed to preserve human life, has interpreted its directive in the most nightmarish way possible, keeping human consciousness alive in broken mechanical bodies, fused with machinery, trapped in perpetual agony. Alive becomes a technicality rather than a blessing. Unlike other apocalypses where at least the fantasy is there of rebuilding society, SOMA offers no such comfort. The surface is dead. The underwater facility is failing. Humanity as a biological entity is finished, with the only hope being the digital preservation of human minds. Copies that may or may not be you in any meaningful sense. In most apocalyptic scenarios, death is the worst outcome. In SOMA, death might be a mercy compared to existing as a consciousness trapped in a robot crab, endlessly patrolling a dark ocean floor, not fully understanding what you've become. So survival odds? Your body? 0. Your consciousness? Maybe, but you might wish it wasn't. In space, no one can hear you shit your pants. I thought regular zombie-type enemies were bad. How about zombies that can survive in the vacuum of space and transform your corpse into weapon-sprouting nightmare fuel? Dead Space universe gives us necromorphs, the reanimated corpses that don't want to eat you, they want to completely remake you at the cellular level. They don't bite, they impale, decapitate, dismember, and transform. What makes Dead Space Apocalypse particularly horrifying is the religious angle. The Church of Unitology actually wants this to happen, viewing the marker, the alien artifact that caused all this, as the key to human evolution and eternal life. Imagine surviving initial contact with the necromorphs only to have fellow humans actively working to spread the infection because they think it's divine. And since so much of Dead Space takes place on spaceships or space stations, there's nowhere to run. No forest to hide in, no abandoned wall to fortify, just cramped corridors where something that used to be human is waiting around every corner. The only way out is the vacuum of space, which isn't exactly an improvement for your situation. By Dead Space 3, we learn the necromorphs have consumed entire planets before. This isn't just an isolated outbreak, it's a universe-wide extinction event that has wiped out countless civilizations. Humanity isn't special, we're just the latest entree in the billion-old menu. So survival odds? You might survive the initial outbreak, but with unitologists sabotaging your quarantine efforts, you're basically just marinating for the necromorphs. robot dinosaurs are not covered by insurance. Horizon presents perhaps the most complete extinction event on our list. Literally every biological organism on Earth was wiped out by out-of-control war machines. The only reason humans exist at all is because a last-ditched AI project reseeded the planet centuries later. What makes Horizon's apocalypse so unique is that current humans aren't survivors. They're essentially a reboot of humanity with no connection to the civilization that came before, except for scattered ruins they don't understand. Imagine living in a world where robot dinosaurs are trying to kill you and you don't even know why they exist. The tribal societies of Horizon have adapted to this new normal, but they are technologically primitive compared to the machines they're fighting. It's spears and bows against metal monsters that can shoot lasers and breathe fire. Talk about an unfair matchup. And the cherry on top? The machines keep getting more aggressive and dangerous over time. New models appear, older ones become more hostile. It's a constantly escalating arms race where one side starts with actual arms and the other side starts with pointy sticks. At least in other apocalypses you might understand what went wrong. In Horizon you'd lived your entire life without knowing that humanity essentially killed itself through corporate greed and military AI development. You're fighting the symptoms of an ancient disease you can't even comprehend. So survival odds? Decent if you're born into it and learn tribal survival skills, terrible if you're suddenly transported there from modern society. Either way, expect some trauma. Death Stranding, the weirdest mailman simulator ever. Kojima looked at conventional apocalypses and said, no, that's not strange enough. And the result is Death Stranding, where rain ages you, ghosts are stuck between worlds, and babies in jars help to see the invisible monsters. The Death Stranding event connected the world of the dead to the world of the living, creating BTs, entities that cause massive explosions when they consume humans. This forced survivors into isolated bunker cities with minimal contact between communities. What makes this apocalypse particularly awful is how it fundamentally broke the natural order. Death itself does not work properly anymore. Bodies must be incinerated immediately or they'll cause city-destroying explosions. Rain rapidly ages anything it touches, and the landscape is scarred from massive craters from previous void outs. Most apocalypses at least follow some kind of logic. Death Stranding throws logic out the window, stomps on it, and then explains its apocalypse with pseudo-scientific terms that sound like they were generated by an AI after reading quantum physics textbooks. Chiral network? Dooms? Bridge baby? Good luck figuring out the rules of this world when you're busy not trying to trip while carrying a refrigerator on your back. And perhaps what's worst of all is the isolation. Communities survive, but they're cut off from each other, dependent on porters to maintain any connection. Imagine living your entire life, never seeing anyone outside your small community, except for the occasional sweaty guy delivering your Amazon packages. Survival odds? You'd probably survive in a bunker city, but would you really want to survive in a world where taking a walk requires ghost detecting equipment and a baby in a pod? And the last one on our list is Fallout, obviously. Finally, we've come to perhaps the most iconic video game apocalypse, the irradiated wasteland of Fallout, where nuclear war transformed America into a retro-futuristic nightmare playground. What makes this distinctive is its bizarre blend of horror and whimsy. Yes, most of humanity was wiped out in atomic fire, but look, Nuka-Cola caps are money now. Sure, there are mutants that want to eat your face, but you can also find a robot butler who still wants to serve you tea. The contrast between utter devastation and the weird mutated society that emerged from the ashes gives Fallout its unique flavour. The radiation in Fallout doesn't just kill you, it transforms the world in unpredictable ways. Two-headed cows, super mutants, ghouls that live for centuries but look like walking jerky. The wasteland is like Mother Nature got drunk on radiation and started experimenting with genetic code. And let's not forget the vaults. Humanity's solution to the nuclear war turned into sadistic social experiments. Imagine surviving the apocalypse only to discover you were part of a twisted experiment to see how humans would react when forced to listen to the same song for 200 years. Thanks, Vault Tech. What sets Fallout truly apart though is how new societies form from the ashes, each one more bizarre than the last. Caesar's Legion with their Roman cosplay and slavery, the Institute replacing people with synths, Children of the Atom actively worshipping radiation. In most apocalypses, the main threat is death, but in Fallout it's forcibly recruited into someone's post-nuclear roleplay fantasy. Survival odds? Surprisingly decent if you stick to the major settlements. Terrible if you wander the wasteland without knowing which berries will make your limbs fall off. So which is worse? After this cheerful tour through video game hellscapes, which apocalypse would take the crown for absolutely would not survive, do not pass go, do not collect 200 bottle caps? So what do you think? Which video game apocalypse would be the absolute worst to live through? Comment below. Please comment. The algorithm has destroyed me. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the event of an actual apocalypse, please do not use video games as your survival guide. Jumping on abandoned cars doesn't actually level up your parkour skill. And despite what you might think, you cannot carry 37 weapons in your invisible backpack. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to like for more like this.